What are adorable Sigewinne's biggest pros and cons? That's what I'm here to tell you today. Plus, I'll also have a little discussion near the end regarding what I consider to be the most unfortunate thing about Sigewinne. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. Sigewinne is gonna be best in slot and mono hydro. What is that team, I hear you ask? Well, as of now, it consists of Kokomi, Furina, Yelan, and Kazuha. Yelan is replaceable for Xingqiu as well. The synergy is nice since the fanfare gain is very comfy as Kokomi on-fields, and all the damage-dealing characters are HP scaling, so Hydro Resonance has an extra amount of value here. Neat. Sigewinne wants to on-field to do most of her DPS and would replace Kokomi's role here. One neat benefit she has over Kokomi is that she has a passive which is specifically really good for Furina, as it helps her free little guys do more damage. And because I'm a C6 Furina person, I'll also say that she can buff up those little guys when Furina C6 has downtime and she has to head off field. She's more front-loaded than Kokomi, which will be nice for faster mono hydro rotations. Plus, she frees up Kokomi so she can play in some of her other best teams, like Bloom, and Freeze too, I suppose. Mono Hydro is honestly a pretty good team that not a lot of people talk about. Think about how we have two Pyrolectors in the current Abyss. It's not the team to use if you're looking for super speedy clears, but it's very nice if you want a low effort, lazy 36 star without much stress. Sigewinne will be pretty neat here. It's also worth mentioning that Sigewinne C2 reduces enemy Hydro Res, meaning that this team will then become capable of dealing some pretty nifty DPS. Which, by the way, that's a pretty great C2 if you ask me. Healers don't typically deal damage, and if they do, it's often treated more as a secondary function as opposed to anything primary. Think about some of the game's best healers, such as Xian, Yan, and Baizhu. Granted, these characters provide other things which are highly valuable, such as Xian Yan allowing plunge playstyles and Baizhu consolidating shielding and healing while also buffing Dendro, but neither of them deal any traditional sort of damage. Kokomi's best use cases involve her using her burst just to extend the duration of her jellyfish, and then swapping off again. Mono Hydro is the only place where her on-field normal attack playstyle has any value, and that's more for the team-wide healing, not for the damage. Sigewinne is Xingqiu levels of damage contributions. I understand that for higher investment players, that really doesn't sound like that much on paper, but for an on-fielding healer, yeah, that's pretty good. I know that you're probably thinking of Ocean Hued Clam or the Cloran Chi-Chi DPS team, but it's a fairly situational set if you look more closely, since there's usually a better set for all of these healers. Song of Days Past or Viridescent Venerer for Xian Yun, Deepwood for Baizhu, and you usually run EM on Kokomi for Bloom or Tenacity of the Millilith for freeze attack buffing. So when you add Sigewinne to your team, not only do you get plenty of utility, but you also get some icing on the cake with her damage. Nice. Sigewinne was designed to be a Furina support, her passive which assists her, being a Hydro so that she can provide her wonderful Actress of Hydro Resonance, and doing a buttload of team-wide healing. She'll be a fanfare-pumping machine. Synergizing with the best character in the game is an immediate stick to your viability. This is a pro which exists among all healers in general, but it is worth pointing out how she is being made as the exact premier option for this specific kind of role, or is at least being nudged in that direction. So if you're lacking a consistent healer to help support your Furina, then Sigewinne's around to help out with that. Sigewinne existing means that all your other highly demanded Hydros can go into other teams when it comes to Imaginarium Theater. I'm aware that the first season does not feature Hydro, but this will be pretty solid for when that day does come. For example, let's say you have Xingqiu, Yelan, Furina, and Neuvillette. Sigewinne could hold down one side, and then you could pair Furina with either Yelan or Xingqiu to form a double Hydro core, or pair Sigewinne with Furina herself to cover for her lower Hydro application. Plus, if you need a healer for one section of theater, then Sigewinne's the right Melusine for the job. Her flexible nature makes her ideal for this game mode, and it's no wonder why she's going to be a special guest star in Imaginarium Theater's first season. Plus, thanks to this game mode, she can coexist with Kokomi and Harmony, so if you already own her and are thinking of getting Sigewinne, you can dedicate them to their own teams and optimize their builds to stick to the team they're assigned to. I don't want to LARP on this for too long, but it is very nice that Sigewinne is a healer in this Fontaine day and age. We have all these Mayonnaise Hunter sets running around the place, with Furina providing everyone HP drain mechanics. Healers have more value than ever in the current meta, so having a crap ton of it while also role consolidating some personal DPS is super cool. Other than that, I really don't have much more to add here, as this is a positive point you could apply to various healing units. Just swap out the damage part for whatever their personal unit gimmick is. But hey, I won't lie, she has her issues. I think being on field is a double-edged sword. Think of it like this. I think Yao Yao is a pretty great unit, as her burst has lots of Dendro application and the healing is insane. Amazing for Bloom teams. But I seriously dislike her outside of them due to how she wants to hog field time if you want all of her value. This hurts Yao Yao's ability to flex into teams, since you need to consider the fact that she wants to on field. Sigewinne does do good work when you put her out on the field, but you still have to swallow that she'll be kinda awkward in some teams since she wants her field time, and if you try to run her primarily off field, then she loses most of her value. This does unfortunately lock her to being a driver. That's not a terrible thing in of itself, at least she'll do a bit of DPS while she's at it, which is different for a driver, but it does limit her teams, and she's a Hydro unit. And one thing that's amazing about Hydro is how flexible it is in so many teams, being able to produce amazing results in said many teams. But that's not as much of an option here. It does at least make her somewhat unique, but then you're left asking whether it's more worth running an offensive choice in her potential teams, or whether you gain more from using Sigewinne. Competing with all the quality on-fielders we have is tough business. Unfortunately, I think Sigewinne's biggest flaw is that she's a super premium pull. Yes, she has value, and if you're interested in her, then you will find her kit to be functional and competent. But she's absolutely not a necessity, and is what we would call in this business a luxury pull. Think about it, even in Mono Hydro, she's not a necessity because everyone who already likes the team will have Kokomi, and she's not such a huge upgrade that she justifies pulling an entirely new 5-star. Characters like Xian Yun enable an absolutely fresh and new playstyle which buffs characters that really needed it, such as Diluc. And being off-fielding means that she can help pretty much any team you desire, not to mention how she's an excellent Xiao buffer. Baizhu can replace Nihida as a more comfortable aggravate option, can heal you in Bloom, and can act as a Nihida substitute in all Hytham teams. He also works in all the other notable Dendro teams. Jean, even though Xian Yun Power Creptor, still deals with Sunfire, which is great if you need the consistent pyro application. Bennett is Bennett. Do I seriously have to explain why Bennett is good? 4v uninitiated, attack buffing, and a freaking lot of it. Sigewinne feels gimmicky in comparison. Yes, she has her set roles, but Mono Hydro isn't that elusive of a role to have. Pretty much any Hydro on-fielder can do the job, and you can stick Jean in the back instead of Kazuha if team-wide healing is your problem. Being a premium pull is not a poor thing in of itself if you get significant value out of it. Chiori is another premium pull, but not only does she make Mono Geo Ito teams significantly better, she also acts as Navia's best partner for overall team DPS, despite Navia being a character of 0 Geo constructs in her team. Plus, she forms a really strong double Geo core of Zhongli that simply doesn't get that much recognition or exposure since double Hydro, Pyro, and even Electro are cores that are simply always more worth running. Albedo already exists. We arguably did not need her, but Chiori undeniably added plenty of damage to Geo teams and is a premium pull that provides you with said premium. The whole point of something being a premium is that it is a nice upgrade that you do not necessarily require. Most people have a Zhongli which can cover for Chiori, or fossil players may own Albedo. He's a fossil himself too, which is pretty funny. But Chiori still rules over them, despite not being what we all really wanted. A proper, true Navia buffer. So, you've heard the Albedo and Chiori comparison. Now, when we compare Kokomi and Sigewinne, yes, it is nice that Sigewinne does not totally kick Kokomi off her pedestal, since she still has her Jellyfish, which will be a very good source of off-field Hydro in teams where it is appreciated. But they are still nearly direct competition, and while I think, on the whole, Sigewinne is arguably better, big emphasis on arguably, it is by such a minuscule amount that you really are just going to be pulling Sigewinne for a more Furina-centric secondary Kokomi. And the second Kokomi is not really what we were all looking for. Here's a hot take. I actually like Sigewinne. No, I don't think her design is 5-star worthy. I'm not sure why Hoyoverse made her a 5-star. She does just look like a 4-star, but I don't hate her entirely. The only reason I can imagine as to why they made her a 5-star is so that, much like Yoimiya, Ayato, and Albedo before he was sentenced to the Chronicle's Wish, she can act as a quote-unquote break banner. I mean, just look at her damn banner placement. Hoyo knew she couldn't carry an entire batch's hype on her own, so they stuck her in the same release patch as Clorand, shoving her next to Furina. Granted, she is a fantastic support for Furina, but I can't help but feel like they are doing Sigewinne dirty and are using Clorand and Furina's first rerun to cover for her most likely poor sales. If Hoyo themselves knew she'd tank, why not just make her a 4-star on Furina's banner? Weird. Also, she's releasing so late, she should have just released closer to your debut time in 4.1 as a 4-star, or in the same patch as Chiori, so they wouldn't have been totally overshadowed by such juggernaut reruns. I get it, they were front-loading their most exciting cast members, but I think it's a wild shame that her spotlight is being treated this way. She'll definitely be rerun when they want to sandwich in a less exciting character so that people can save Privo Gems for the next huge release, so they can keep hype healthy for all the much harder heavy hitters. Man. I've also seen so much negative animosity surrounding this character because she's lame or not that interesting, which is fine, everyone has their own preference. But all of this just for me to say that I think the biggest con of Sigewinne overall is that Hoyoverse doesn't value her at all, just from my own personal opinionated perspective. Sigewinne is going to be another forgotten addition to the roster, which is unfortunate for people like me who actually quite like her. I myself may be trying to pick her up, but I'm still a little on the fence myself. She'll be a wonderful, easy-to-pilot healer that'll suit all your on-field healing needs, and while competition is extremely steep for her, I think she will find a welcome place on the accounts that choose to own her. I won't lie, she isn't filled with bundles upon bundles of account-changing value, but if you like her, then she'll work just fine for you. Hopefully this video was able to tell you Sigewinne's biggest pros and cons. This has been Juice, signing out. And of all places, why did Sigewinne decide to work in a jail?